Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. It's your pal NOMZ here, and today, before we get this video started, just a quick disclaimer. This video, you see, already exists on my second channel that talks about video games, and it's called, well, it's called NOMZ. Fitting, isn't it? Now, I know many of you are unaware that I have a secondary channel. In actuality, I have three, and they all serve different purposes. But you see, for those of you who were unaware about my second channel, I wanted to use this video as a means of informing you, but in addition to that, I also wanted to exhibit it here for a limited time, so I can give you guys just a taste of what you can expect on the second channel. There's already several videos up there already, several of which I am displaying on screen right now, and more on the way. So if you see something to your liking and are starved for content, be sure to subscribe to NOMZ once you're finished here. Thanks for your time. Now please enjoy the video.
It's literally garbage! It's trash! So what's the point? No, it's not true. It's impossible. No!
By now, word has spread far and wide about Battlefront 2's shitty pay-to-win loot boxes. Should've known that free updates, content, and DLCs had to be counteracted by something.
My worst fears come true.
Is this good for the plot?
Hello and welcome back to the channel, everyone. It's your pal NOMZ here. And well, this is a video I had never thought I'd end up making, but I've been pestered on my live streams by many of you, wonderful people, every time I throw stones at Star Wars Battlefront 2 EA to go back and check it out, because word on the internet is that the game kicks ass now. Well, turns out I did, and I can't wait to tell you what I think. But before I do, let's do a quick intro on my history with the game. Now, Star Wars Battlefront 2 EA is quite possibly the most infamous video game of 2017 and possibly of all time. The game's release upon launch was admittedly an improvement in terms of content from the release in 2015, however with some colossal drawbacks, being the long dead beaten horse of its shameless, borderline criminal loot box child gambling integration into every aspect of the game, and most damnably into the gameplay itself. And along with this, one of the laziest campaigns I've ever played, which was also Disneyfied to oblivion. And though it added more maps than Battlefront 2015, it really did feel like the bare minimum EA and DICE thought they could get away with. At launch, I bought the game and I grinded the shit out of it, as the grind EA and DICE designed it to be to get the cosmetics I wanted. That, in all honesty, weren't that impressive to begin with. A bearded Han Solo. Who fucking rah, I'm moving up in the world. And I played the shit out of Galactic Assault and Starfighter and found moments of enjoyment to be sure, as long as it wasn't lagging the fuck out with the internet connection. And then that was it. Eventually, after about 3 months, after I first played the game, and finished its shitty campaign expansion pack with the Last Jedi DLC, I abandoned Star Wars Battlefront 2 EA and thought I'd never return. But after you guys wouldn't stop telling me how great the game had become over the past 2 years, I re-downloaded the game, and well, to sum up my thoughts in a nutshell, you guys were absolutely fucking right. But let me preface this by saying it still isn't as good as it could have been. Anyway, I'll open first by telling you what I love about the game and its improvements, and then we'll go into some of the negatives. Firstly, the content. Holy shit. Okay, so bear in mind, I haven't played this game in over 2 years, so I had a lot to catch up on. And make no mistake, when I started playing the game again, I felt like a kid on Christmas morning. I remember that same feeling I had when I opened up Rogue Squadron for the first time, because it was like I hadn't played the game before. Truly, picking up Battlefront 2 and playing it after 2 years, I felt like I was playing a whole new game. I was a fat kid at a Star Wars candy store, and boy did I have a lot to chew on. First of all, they added a game mode called Supremacy, and what I loved about this game mode, especially after the past year, because I played a shit ton of OG Battlefront 2, and the traditional multiplayer of saving hardpoints around the map, thank God they added Supremacy, because the maps don't feel restrictive to select portions at a time, like in Galactic Assault, which is obviously a Rush clone from the Battlefield series. But yes, now you can roam the beautiful worlds of the Star Wars universe till your heart's content, or until you run into Darth Maul with maxed out star cards and then you're fucked. But yes, Supremacy is large scale, grandiose, and fun as hell with more room to move around the already awesome maps. And what amazed me is that once the domination stage of the game was finished, the game doesn't stop. It transitions to a second phase, Squad Battle, where you either have to destroy the ship or hold out until all the other team's reinforcements have been depleted. What I adore about these starships is that the aesthetic of the interior and exterior will change based on what faction you're fighting for and which era it belongs to, which is honestly really awesome. It keeps the second phase from looking and feeling dull with repetitive play because the aesthetics and layouts change. In addition to that, yes, you can play across the 3 eras of Star Wars: the Age of Republic, the Age of Rebellion, and the Age of Resistance, otherwise known as the Age of Rebellion 2.0. Supremacy opts to keep these battles feeling as close to canon as possible, which is why you have only a select group of heroes to choose from in each era, unlike Galactic Assault, which is much less restrictive in this instance, but we will come back to that. In addition to this, and much to my amazement, there is a plethora of new playable upper-class units to choose from, including but not limited to the Infiltrator droids and Droidicas, making playing as the CIS faction so goddamn fun. There's even several new clone troopers to use, including the dual-wielding blaster clone with the overpowered super shot. And let's not forget the new addition of heroes. Holy shit, thank Christ we can finally play as Obi-Wan and Grievous, 2 of the biggest badasses from the beloved prequel trilogy, and Anakin Skywalker as well. Fuck yes, consider my boxes ticked. Now let's talk vehicles. We now get to use the iconic droid battle tank from the Phantom Menace, the AAT, hell yes, and this iconic clone vehicle from the OG Battlefront 2 series, which I still have no idea what it's called. Both of these finally return and are just as satisfying to use as ever before. One of my favorite units to use is the Commando droid. Being able to see incoming enemies attack by identifying their heat signatures and knowing which order to engage them in. The smoke to mask your approach or escape, where you can let loose with the awesome sword it carries for a deadly close-range combat. And unsurprisingly to many, I'm sure, another one of my favorite units to use is the Clone Commando, which makes a shocking return and resurgence into the modern era of Star Wars Battlefront. From the much-renowned and excellent LucasArts classic Republic Commando, a game that up until only last year I had only heard of as a long-lost legend of a Star Wars game that came and went before its time. To see the Commando design implemented into Star Wars Battlefront 2 EA is so fulfilling as an avid fan of the prequel era, both its films and its expanded universe, including the video games. And make no mistake, the prequel era was the best era. Search your feelings, you know it to be true. But yes, the Republic Commando is an absolute beast on the battlefront. Built like a juggernaut, agile, equipped with a powerful blaster and a grenade launcher from the Republic Commando video game, and also a shockwave that can send enemies, including heroes, flying from the ground. So to summarize, yes, Supremacy has become the crown jewel of Star Wars Battlefront 2 EA. A full-scale warfare mode which has both teams battling on the ground in open field and in the air aboard spacecraft in tight corridor shootouts. If the defending team manages to survive and deplete the reinforcements from the attacking team, the battle isn't over. You return to the ground for what is essentially a quicker round of ground warfare for the chance to turn the tide, but if you fail on the ground again, you return to the ship you were just defending, but it is far more vulnerable and likely to be taken over and destroyed due to your defenses already being depleted. This mode is fucking brilliant, and it never gets old, especially with the new arsenal of units, vehicles, and heroes to use. Not even joking here, but some of the matches on Supremacy can stretch over an hour, which is insane. You really feel like you're in just continuous immersion with Supremacy while you're playing it. It's been a long time since I've been immersed in Star Wars the way Supremacy has done for me. But in addition to Supremacy, that's not all. And that brings us to the selection of multiplayer maps. Ladies and gentlemen, Battlefront 2 now consists of the Star Wars holy grail for gorgeous and grandiose Star Wars maps, which are faithful to the films and are all stunning and well designed across all Star Wars eras, even the era that isn't canon. In addition to all you fine folks pestering me to play this again, I watched Metal Gear Mando's video about whatever the hell mumbo jumbo he likes to blather on about, and I saw him playing the map Felucia, and being perfectly honest, this was the straw that broke the camel's back that sold me on, once again, getting the game. Felucia is undoubtedly my favourite map. The dynamic landscape, the unique and colourful flora, the lighting, and the detailed layout. I've had a soft spot for this planet ever since it was introduced in Revenge of the Sith, and ever since I played a version of it in The Force Unleashed. But not only that, we get the vast rocky terrain of Geonosis, the iconic planet which acted as ground zero for the Clone Wars, which had an amazing backdrop and skybox to make the world and its conflict feel alive. And from the original trilogy era, DICE has added in maps from both of Disney's spin-off films. Kessel from Solo: A Star Wars Story, which is just extra variety really, I was never particularly fond of that map. And thankfully, Scarif Beach from Rogue One, which is just fucking awesome. But best of all, we get the iconic planet Bespin and the breathtaking Cloud City. While it's not my favourite map, I dare say it might be the most beautiful of all of them. Seriously, whoever it was at DICE who designed Bespin for Star Wars Battlefront 2 EA, you did a fantastic fucking job. Finally, there were some more included maps from the Disney, or rather the non-canon era of Star Wars. Despite the terrible quality of the films, there was at least some imagination used for the superficial elements of the trilogy, for which we can endlessly enjoy to our heart's content. Those being Crate from The Last Jedi, which if nothing else looks awesome, and the Discount Yavin 4 Resistance base from The Rise of Skywalker, which I've gotten to play extensively, and it plays fantastic. All of these great maps add to the already serviceable selection which was available at launch. The reason why I haven't spoken about the features already included at launch is because, again, it should be a given that we're already well aware of what the launch was like, and I'm sure it's something we would all like to forget at this point, but unfortunately we can't because, as we all know, it must never happen again. So how has DICE improved what was already available? Well, aside from the new awesome maps which have been added, DICE has added alternate variations of the same maps we already possess. The two best examples I can give of this are Naboo and Hoth. When Galactic Assault was the only large-scale mode available at launch, each map played linearly and restrictively, and each had a set aesthetic. For Naboo, it looked exactly as it did in The Phantom Menace, when Naboo was being invaded in broad daylight by the droid armies of the Trade Federation, but now with the updates, and most often during Supremacy, you can play Naboo at dusk. The sun barely visible, much more debris on the battlefield from what looks to have been a long drawn out fight. And you can see the gorgeous lights of Naboo's architecture illuminating the streets. And the reason I adore this so much is because it feels like a direct callback to the OG Battlefront 2 map of Naboo, and I very much appreciated it. And then there's Hoth, which for Battlefront 2 EA was given a unique sunset aesthetic, or sunrise depending on how you see it. I think it looks like sunset. And this gave the map a different atmosphere than in both the OG Battlefront games and Battlefront 2015's Hoth. But with the updates, you can now play Hoth in broad daylight with the big blue sky and a much more illuminated map. In other words, classic Hoth. I just wanted to outline how much I adore this level of detail and these altering aesthetics for both the maps and the galactic warships. Despite playing the same maps over and over, they can still feel very different and very fresh because of the different atmosphere presented to the player. Not to mention the map selection and rotation is mostly excellent. You can search all maps at once for any given game type, or in the game mode Supremacy you can search for maps specific to the era of canon. Despite the vast amount of maps, the cycle is very good and just about every map gets a turn, as one would hope. The only two maps I've barely played so far are Crate and Kessel, but I'm sure they will get their turn. Now let's talk about the customization and progression. Now, to my delight, almost every unit class and hero has their own customization skins. When I saw the sheer amount of options, I was astounded. Especially since the customization skins were not only faithful to the universe, such as the 501st Legion from OG Battlefront 2, another homage to that legendary game, but also another one of my favorites being the Kashyyyk Ranger skins for the clones in Revenge of the Sith. As for the heroes, you have multiple character variations from both the movies and even the Clone Wars 3D television series, like Old Master Darth Maul for example. However, there are a select few that apparently came out of the bloody ether, because where in the hell did Count Dooku's exquisite pajamas come from? You know what? Who cares? I am now complete. I can play Battlefront 2 EA with Christopher Lee's iconic character wearing his exquisite pajamas and fighting clone troopers. Well done, guys. Just well fucking done. Now let's chat about progression. Thankfully, everything is experience-based and credit-based. Every single class and hero can be progressed with their own selection of unlocks that become available after you've advanced enough with each particular character. You have to put the time in other words. And I like it, old school grinding for unlocks, and a credit system to purchase the skins you want, some of which can simply be unlocked by milestones and completing challenges. Now we have player freedom and player incentive to keep playing, goals to shoot for, and immense replayability to keep aiming for, and obtain the customization we want. I've made a video in the past which has since been deleted for a number of different reasons, where I say that materialistic replay value isn't true replay value. True replay value comes from challenge, fun, and variety more or less. However, materialistic incentives can provide replay value in addition to the fundamentals of replayability that a game should strive for to provide the player. And Battlefront 2 accomplishes this very well, certainly a far cry from where this game started. The abominable microtransaction loot box RNG progression with barely any player choice whatsoever and barely any structure, it was all randomized. Seeing where Battlefront 2 EA is in 2020 makes me look back at this game's absolutely heinous launch and want to throw up even more. This is the way it should have always been, and this is how it needs to stay for the ongoing future. Star Wars games are titans of the industry and need to set the right example. It's the very reason why the loot box controversy received as much attention as it did, because just about the entire gaming community was scorned. This scorn reached their families, their friends, and thankfully the politicians. The launch of Battlefront 2 was undoubtedly and regrettably the sacrificial lamb for changing the gaming industry as a whole for the better. Since then, scarcely any pay-to-win microtransactions have been included in AAA titles going forward. Hell, even Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2019. Far be it for me to give Activision any praise, but this game had one of the best AAA releases in years, with not so much as a trace of loot box or pay-to-win sleazy microtransaction bullshit. And as a result, Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2019 has what I consider to be the best in-game first-person shooter customization of any game I've ever played. Shocking as that sounds, but that is what we should be expecting from a AAA game like Call of Duty and Battlefront 2 EA. And all of this change has stemmed from the launch of Battlefront 2 in 2017. So choose to look at Battlefront 2's launch as a blessing in disguise, which has since righted the wrong, and is now a fully fledged Star Wars game worthy of the name that holds to the expected standards of the modern era. A lot of you are probably typing in the comments, spitting in my face of why am I praising all of these additions when they should have been included at launch. And yes, you're right. Allow me to congratulate you for pointing out the glaringly fucking obvious. The time for beating that dead horse is long gone. It's time to give credit where credit is due. And Battlefront 2 2017 has come a long way. It hasn't measured up to what we all wanted it to be, but it's amazing to see just how much it has improved, and it leaves me optimistic for the future. Okay, so now that I've spoken about the positives of Star Wars Battlefront 2 EA, we need to address several elephants in the room. Where this game still falls short and why DICE needs to continue to work on the game. Because recently DICE brought out their latest patch and the longtime players of Battlefront 2 are not happy to say the least. Apparently it's left the game in a worse state functionally than the previous patch. I have not played the game in over 2 years, so I will refrain from commenting on that. But I will discuss the game's shortcomings that need to be fixed and missing features that should be added. I'm happy with how the game plays currently, but knowing DICE are essentially done with Star Wars Battlefront 2 EA after the latest patch, it honestly really saddens me, to be perfectly honest. They've done such a phenomenal job in post-launch so far, but there's still massive potential that the game is yet to reach. And I would like to see this game's upward stride continue, so let's go through some of the issues. Let's start by talking about the missing maps. For whatever reason, Mustafar is still absent from EA's Battlefront, and I cannot for the life of me figure out why, since it's one of the most popular maps from the OG Battlefront. And the same goes for Utapau, a planet that comes from Revenge of the Sith that was featured in the OG Battlefront 2 game. Could you imagine how beautiful both those maps would look on the Frostbite engine? There's also those two temple maps, which look to be the remains of an ancient Jedi or Sith temple from the times of the Old Republic. I could be wrong about that, but that's what those map layouts reminded me of, and what I thought they were referring to. They also reminded me of the derelict ancient alien structures you might find on a Halo ring. Perhaps the reason they aren't in Battlefront 2017 is because Disney has decanonized the lore from which those maps came from. And I'll come back to this because Lucasfilm's insistence that the games tie in with the canon has certainly limited their recent games in terms of creativity. Also, I kind of liked Corellia from Solo. I was kind of hoping they would add that. Or Kijimi from Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker, that snowy mountain town where they find Babu Frick. Or perhaps Arctu from The Last Jedi. Say what you want about the Disney films, but they had some pretty neat locations, not gonna lie. But let's move on to the missing heroes. Where's Ki-Adi-Mundi? Where's Ayla Secura, Kit Fisto, Jango fucking Fett? All of those would be an excellent addition to Star Wars Battlefront 2 EA. As for the Rebellion, why not bring in Cal Kestis from Jedi Fallen Order, since that game falls into the Disney canon? Also, in addition to that, why not bring in Darth Vader's Inquisitors, the second and ninth sister? Hell, you are promoting Jedi Fallen Order in the main menu, DICE. Why not add a character from that game and insert it into Battlefront 2017? And I haven't even mentioned Star Wars Clone Wars or the fucking Rebel series yet. Yes, you have General Kenobi and General Skywalker character skins, and they're awesome to look at, really. They look great. But what about all the characters and maps from those eras? Ahsoka Tano would be the most obvious inclusion, and not to mention all the worlds and potential maps those eras have to offer. I'm sure including many of those would please so many fans. I'm yet to watch the Clone Wars or Rebel series, so seeing those characters and set pieces included into Battlefront would get me hyped as hell to watch them, more so than I already am. Look, DICE has added a massive amount of content to the game already, and yes, most of that should have already been in the game on day one, I'm not denying that. But despite the additions they've made, the game could just be that much better than it already is. Star Wars is a huge universe just waiting to be explored. You could add a seemingly endless amount of content to any Star Wars multiplayer game. But I digress. Now that we've discussed what's missing from the game and that there's much to be desired, let's discuss the core issues that persist with the game. Heroes combat is fun as hell. The gameplay, especially with lightsabers, is still a step down from the OG Battlefront 2 games, which was much more smooth and flowy, but the abilities make up for this by being extremely creative and fun to use. However, playing as heroes, especially in large-scale warfare like Supremacy and Galactic Assault, is an utter nightmare. This is more so an issue with Supremacy since the hero selection is more restrictive, because Supremacy wants to feel as accurate to the canon of the three mainline Star Wars eras as possible. Meaning that the heroes you can use are only specific to that era. For example, you won't find General Grievous in a map of Supremacy on Takodana, because that's a map from The Force Awakens and post Return of the Jedi. Now this limits the player's options and also their opportunities to use heroes, meaning if they've collected battle points they likely won't be able to use the hero they want because it's already in play, or the hero limit on the battlefield has been reached. I understand maintaining balance is important, but honestly I think DICE has this backwards. Galactic Assault isn't tied to canon, so there's more hero options, which is fine, because you can use just about every available hero depending on which team you are playing. But Galactic Assault is far more restrictive on the maps at any given time, because, again, it's a version of Rush from Battlefield, but Supremacy has no map restrictions. There's more room to spread out and utilize the maps, instead of keeping things condensed. So if anything, Supremacy should have the higher hero limit, in both the available selection and the active number on the battlefield, and perhaps make Galactic Assault canon-based instead, since a lot of these battle scenarios are replicated from the movies. For example, the Siege of Theed on Naboo, and the Walker Assault in the Battle of Hoth. These are canon battles, so I honestly think Galactic Assault would work better using the structure and restrictions that DICE has made for Supremacy. Also, if you're going to have battle points be a thing, don't make it so people can spam heroes, since people who save up battle points for one hero which has maxed out star cards can just save up the battle points all over again while using the hero, and if they die, their battle points will be replenished to buy another hero. And what's worse is that they will be the first in line to buy it again, and continuously keep the hero slot for themselves. And as a result, they will rack up a ridiculous kill streak. The game needs to make heroes available for the right amount of battle points, but there needs to be an unavailability period for those who have already used a hero, perhaps a timer or a kill requirement. This can be implemented in a number of different ways. This can also be helped by allowing more available heroes, and including new ones, as I previously suggested. And finally, dear God, the amount of useless ass clowns who use heroes and do but fucking all to help with the objective, instead opting to hide behind teammates and pick the bones of large-scale encounters and try to rack up a kill streak for themselves. Heroes are meant to be the game changers. They are meant to punch a hole in the defenses of the enemy so that the lighter infantry units can move in. They are not meant to be corner camping, kill spamming little shits that add nothing to the team's effort to win the objective. I seriously think heroes need to be put on timers, at least for certain portions of the game. Most notably for the second phase of Supremacy, where taking the sole objective is a must, and it becomes a claustrophobic corridor shooter with a wall of blaster fire that's nearly impenetrable. Now let's move on to another issue. The population is spread too thin. Now admittedly I'm playing on Xbox, so the PC and PS4 crowds would have a much higher player base, and naturally this would make it far easier to find matches. But on Xbox, my biggest grievance is being unable to find matches for certain game modes. For example, the Ewok Hunt. I was only able to find one match, and that was an accident, as I chose the quick match option, which put me into any random match of any number of players. But even though I found the hunt mode, there wasn't even a full lobby. There was just the bare minimum. Not only that, but Starfighter Assault playlist is almost completely desolate, which really surprised me, since it was and is one of the best game modes Battlefront 2 EA has to offer. Now I can hardly find a match. And honestly, I hate when games don't have the population counters. It feels like a gigantic waste of time. When I search for a game, and after minutes of searching, it puts me into the game and I find that the lobby is completely empty. This can be really frustrating. So yes, population counters, please. And also perhaps funnel the game types. Make Heroes vs Villains a single game mode which has hero starfighters as well implemented into it. Find a way to funnel the population to make the games more consistently playable, if only on Xbox, since I'm sure Xbox's player base needs this the most due to a lack of players. Now let's move on to my last big grievance with the game. Useless vehicles. Speed of vehicles suck. They are the epitome of useless, but not only are they janky as hell to control if your internet isn't perfect, but their guns, my god, they're useless, stupid guns. Not only is the damage pathetic, but DICE, in their grand spectrum of stupidity, decided to make it impossible for speeder vehicles to tilt their guns up. I'd imagine this is a pretty fucking common complaint. Why are these speeders instantly pointing at the fucking ground? There is literally no reason to use them. It's a joke. You can't aim, and a clone commando with a grenade launcher can kill you much more easily than you can kill them. These vehicles are pointless. They can be easily tweaked to not be pointless, which begs the question of why the fuck hasn't DICE done this? It's extremely frustrating and it honestly blows my mind. Right. Now, for the final act of this video, I want to discuss something important, which is why, despite my praise for the game and how far Battlefront 2 EA has come, despite its amazing progress, this game was always doomed to fall short of the original Star Wars Battlefront 2. Feel free to disagree with me, but let me explain my position. The reason why OG Battlefront 2 will always be better than the modern version released by EA. Truthfully, it's in the fundamentals of its design. Don't get me wrong, I'm not an OG Battlefront purist who doesn't want change. I absolutely welcome it. I'm all for a progression system, new weapons, attachments, and equipment to unlock, as well as customization skins. However, where EA Battlefront falls short at the fundamental level is, regrettably, the star card system. Completely fucking the balance of the game and its gameplay, giving people damage boosts, health boosts, extra vehicle health, stronger abilities, and even though this is possible for the most part in large-scale warfare since you come across more common players as opposed to those who have maxed out their star cards. But in Heroes vs Villains, the balance issues become very apparent very quickly when your opponents have their characters jacked up on steroids. Anakin's force pull ability is probably the most ridiculously overpowered ability when maxed out because it can rip you from halfway across the fucking map. The OG Battlefront had an elegant simplicity to it, with room to expand upon without directly screwing up the balance with cheap bullshit. Now, while you can't pay to win or unlock star cards of any tier randomly anymore through loot boxes, the damage was kinda done. And in addition to that, veterans of the game who know how to play it extremely well don't need an extra damage buff or health boost on top of their skill gap. This is going to make new and returning players extremely frustrated and discourage them from playing the game, whether it be for the first time or for the first time in a long time. The star cards fundamentally crippled the game in EA's Battlefront, whereas in OG Battlefront it was an equal playing field for the most part, with varying stats depending on the kind of unit you would choose for the battlefield. Like I said, this elegant simplicity has room to be expanded upon. EA's Battlefront has this elegant simplicity to it, but with the addition of the star cards, that messes up this aspect of the game. Heroes vs Villains used to feel like a game of Star Wars Super Smash Bros. Choosing your favorite hero and jumping into battle was just a blast of back and forth action. The combat might have been a bit blander without all the extravagant abilities, but far more accessible and enjoyable because it didn't contain the stat-altering bullshit of the star cards. My first Heroes vs Villain match on Star Wars Battlefront 2 EA almost made me quit the game outright because of going up against a team of 4 with all maxed out star cards and Princess fucking Leia, who seriously needs a nerf, by the way. Thankfully, I stuck it out and found Heroes vs Villains to be even more enjoyable than I remember when I last played Battlefront 2 EA, with only the occasional match being unplayable due to balance. The game mode still works very well, but has the potential to be broken, and it's all because of the star cards. It's because this system is so integral to the progression of the game that DICE couldn't remove it. Not to mention, since people had already bought some of these cards with the deluxe editions of the game, if they suddenly remove them, I imagine that DICE and EA would be facing some kind of lawsuit by reneging on pre-order content if they made the star cards unavailable after launch, which is why, regrettably, the game will always suffer from them. We can only hope this doesn't reoccur with Battlefront 3. Finally, and this is the second fundamental reason why OG Battlefront 2 still exceeds its modern version, and that's the lack of custom game options for Star Wars Battlefront 2017. Now this, unlike the star cards, is actually fixable. Battlefront 2 EA does have instant access, and you can still have your own bot matches on any map of your choosing, which is good. And you can even have your own Supremacy matches, which honestly surprised me. However, Supremacy is the only specific game mode you can choose for custom options. The other options it gives you is either an attack or defense game type. You can still adjust how the games will be played, how large the enemy teams are, and how long the rounds will be, etc. And while the experience is customizable, it lacks the available game variants from the instant action mode in OG Battlefront 2. And more regrettably, you can't play on a host connection with your friend in a custom lobby, let alone dedicated servers for custom games. Granted, good luck getting 40 players together for a full lobby of Galactic Assault and Supremacy, but this is just a bit depressing because I'd love to play so many of these game modes with friends that I can scarcely play now with the population spread so thin, with the game the way it is now. And as time progresses, it's only going to get worse. A lack of custom lobbies is going to render the game unplayable one day. You could argue that this game may become redundant once Battlefront 3 comes out, but Battlefront 2015 is in the same boat of multiplayer being strictly online matchmaking, meaning you can't find matches anymore and the game is pretty much dead. When Battlefront 2 EA came out, I honestly preferred the gameplay of Battlefront 2015 at first because it didn't have the star card system. And even though I wanted to go back and play it, I couldn't because the multiplayer lobbies were long gone. And we couldn't play custom games. Star Wars Battlefront 2 EA needs a custom lobby as much as any other first-person shooter. It honestly baffles me why there isn't. It wouldn't only help extend the game's lifespan, but it would serve the community immensely and enable people to play every game mode they desired with their buddies, which they could also customize to their leisure. If they implemented this, custom games shouldn't contribute to progression, so there is still plenty of incentive to play standard matchmaking, but sometimes you just want to enjoy some Star Wars with your buddies. Sit down, chill out, and have a good time. And if Battlefront 2 is to stand the test of time, it needs to have these lobbies implemented at some point, and I hope to see it one day. To conclude, Battlefront 2 EA will always be a black sheep in the archives of Star Wars video game experiences, but it was the black sheep that found redemption after a long road of love and care. As cheesy as that sounds, mad props to DICE for bringing the game so far, and for crafting the best Star Wars experience I've had in a long time. Jedi Fallen Order is what I consider to be the best Star Wars game ever made. I played a lot of Star Wars games, I have not played them all, but with Fallen Order I felt somewhat of a disconnect from the films I love and adore. It was its own story set between eras that was made with the Disney canon in mind. However, Battlefront 2 EA has done one thing Jedi Fallen Order failed to do, which was reconnect me to the films, re-immerse me into the universe crafted by the visionary George Lucas and his extremely talented team, allowing me to play through the battlefields, architecture, and terrain of the prequels and the original trilogy, along with a healthy selection of characters from both eras, just fills my heart with so much warmth. And hell, even playing in the era of Disney's fanfiction, completely divorced from the context, is a lot of fun too. And it adds to the experience that has long been lost to me, which is to simply enjoy Star Wars. The gameplay of Battlefront 2 is for the most part pretty casual and shallow in depth, but still immersive as hell, grand in scale, beautiful to look at, awesome to listen to, and the gameplay, despite its simplicity, is what it needs to be in order to provide the true Battlefront experience for Star Wars fans and to keep me coming back indefinitely for more. But this game still has a lot of untapped potential, and while I commend DICE, and yes, even you EA, I urge you to keep the game alive. Keep making the experience better, and keep adding features from the universe we all love and adore. And while that brings this video to a close, thanks for listening to what I guess you could call my retrospective review of Star Wars Battlefront 2 2017. Let me know your feelings on how you thought the game has progressed in the comments below. And while you do that, I'd like to borrow just a moment of your time. So in case you didn't know, this is my second channel. You can find me primarily on Anomaly Inc., where I talk about Star Wars and other stuff as well. However, I used to do my gaming content on that channel as well. Due to YouTube's algorithm being an absolute dick nugget, I've had to abandon that style of content on my primary channel due to it being simply counterproductive and impractical. And so I made this channel instead, where I can post all of my gaming commentaries, reviews, streams, etc. But if I'm being honest, gaming content is my passion, more so than doing videos on film, or television for that matter. My best videos in the past have been my game critiques, several of which I'll be re-uploading to this channel when the time is right. But the reason I started this channel is so I could talk about the games I love or hate in front of an audience who wants to see that content. So while I hope you enjoyed this video, this channel as of right now is not monetized. So if you do like my work and would like to contribute to it, even if it's just $1 per month, you can check out my Patreon if you wish. The link will be in the description. And on that note, I'd like to give a thank you and shout out to all of my current patrons for all of their support. Thank you all so very much. It means a great deal to me, and I shall continue to do my best to be worth your generosity. In addition to that, if you'd like to help me out, just continue watching the videos, I guess. And who knows what the future may hold for this channel. Lastly, if you'd like to interact with me and my community, head over to our Discord server. I've made one specifically for this channel that exclusively talks about games, whether it's gaming news, new releases, specific topics, or bad takes on YouTube. I hope you check it out, and who knows, maybe you'll make some friends along the way. And with all that said, thanks for staying till the end of the video, you are a legend, and I'll see you on the Battlefront.